Hey everyone, have you ever felt like someone's words or actions just completely derailed your day? Like a small comment sent your blood pressure through the roof? We've all been there. It's that feeling of being bothered, of being angry, of letting someone else's behavior control your inner peace. What if I told you there was a way to stop that from happening? Not a magic trick, but a shift in perspective that allows you to be the master of your emotions no matter what's happening around you. Today, we're going to talk about a few powerful ideas to help you never feel angry or bothered by anyone again. So, let's dive into that first idea, the big one. Your peace isn't dependent on others' actions. Think about the last time you felt truly bothered. It wasn't just the thing that happened, it was the story you told yourself about it. Someone forgot to call you back, and you felt angry because you had an expectation that they should have. A colleague took credit for your work, and you felt hurt because you expected them to be honest. The anger and the frustration, they're not coming from the event itself, but from the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. We walk around all day with a mental contract for everyone we meet, and when they inevitably break it, we get upset. The truth is, that contract only exists in your head. The key is to understand the difference between your action and their outcome. You can be the most patient, understanding person in the world, but you cannot force anyone else to be patient or understanding in return. You can give someone your absolute best effort, but you can't guarantee that they'll appreciate it or even acknowledge it. The moment you decide that your internal state, your happiness, your sense of peace, your self-worth is contingent upon how other people respond, you are essentially giving them a remote control to your emotions. They can press a button and send your stress levels through the roof. Detachment is about handing that remote back to yourself. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become apathetic or cold. This isn't about building an emotional wall. It's about building a foundation of strength so that your world doesn't crumble just because someone else's world is in disarray. It's about recognizing that every single person is on their own journey. They have their own burdens, their own bad habits, their own blind spots. Their inability to meet your expectations is not a personal failure on your part. It's just a reflection of their own human limitations. When you begin to let go of the specific outcomes you desire from others, you find a surprising sense of freedom. The joy of giving a gift is simply in the act of giving, not in their reaction. The satisfaction of doing good work is in the quality of the work itself, not in the praise you may or may not receive. You're no longer in a constant state of waiting, hoping, or being disappointed. You're operating from a place of genuine purpose, where your actions are their own reward. The outcome is not your responsibility. You are responsible for the purity of your intent and the integrity of your actions. This mindset shift is a daily practice. It's about catching yourself in the moment. When you feel that familiar knot of frustration start to form, stop. Ask yourself, am I upset because of what happened or because of what I wanted to happen? In that simple moment of clarity, you can choose to release the expectation. You can choose to be unaffected. You can choose to find your peace not in what others do, but in the unwavering strength of your own character. We talked about detaching from outcomes, and now we move to the flip side of that same coin, focusing on your response. This is a subtle but profound distinction. You've already established that you can't control the actions of others, their words, their decisions, their moods. So if you're not focusing on them, what are you focusing on? You're focusing on the only thing you have complete power over, yourself. This is where real freedom lives. It's the difference between being a victim of circumstance and an active participant in your own life. When something happens that would normally make you angry, the first instinctive thought is usually, they shouldn't have done that. But the more powerful, more liberating thought is, okay, they did that. Now, how do I choose to react? The challenge with focusing on your response is that it requires discipline. It's much easier to fall into the default mode of blame and frustration. It's a natural human tendency to look outside ourselves for the cause of our emotional discomfort. The traffic made me angry. My boss made me stressed. My friend's comment hurt my feelings. But that kind of thinking puts your emotional well being at the mercy of every single person and every single event you encounter. It's a very fragile way to live. When you shift your focus inward, you stop giving away your power. You reclaim ownership of your emotions. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about consciously choosing your reaction to them. When you feel a surge of anger, don't pretend it's not there. Acknowledge it. Okay, I feel angry right now. The next step is to ask why. Not why did they do that, but why am I allowing this to affect me? That is a crucial question. The anger isn't the problem. The anger is the alarm bell telling you something. The problem is what you do with it. You can throw the alarm clock against the wall, or you can use it to wake up and get moving in a different direction. Choosing your response gives you an incredible sense of control, even in situations where you feel helpless. Maybe you're stuck in traffic and there's nothing you can do about it. You can choose to get mad and honk your horn, which will only raise your blood pressure and annoy the people around you. Or you can choose to take a deep breath, put on some music, and recognize that this is a moment you can't control, but your peace is still in your hands. You're not stuck in traffic, you're simply in traffic. The emotional narrative you attach to it is your own creation. So, the next time someone tries to bother you, see it as a test. A small opportunity to practice this skill. They're giving you a chance to exercise your power. Don't take the bait. Don't let their bad mood, their rudeness, or their poor judgment become yours. Their actions are their business. Your peace is your business, and you are the CEO of your own emotional state. We've covered detaching from outcomes and focusing on your own response. And now we arrive at what might be the most challenging yet most transformative practice of all: radical empathy. This isn't just about trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes for a moment. It's about a deep, committed effort to understand the pain, the fear, and the chaos that might be driving their behavior. It's the decision to assume that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. When someone says something cutting or acts with what seems like sheer thoughtlessness, your first instinct is to feel the sting. Radical empathy asks you to instead see the wound they're likely carrying. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them or condone their actions. You can and should still hold your own boundaries. But understanding where their behavior comes from can dissolve the personal offense you feel. When someone lashes out at you for a minor mistake, it's easy to feel angry. But when you consider that maybe they're under immense pressure, facing a personal crisis, or feeling a sense of inadequacy, their action becomes less about you and more about their own struggle. Their rudeness is a symptom, not a personal attack. Practicing this kind of empathy requires you to be a detective of the human condition. You have to be a keen observer of people, and more importantly, a good listener. When you encounter a difficult person, try to shift your internal dialogue from "why are they doing this to me?" to "what is happening in their life that they feel the need to behave this way?" Maybe they're tired, hungry, or just had a terrible morning. Maybe they were never taught how to manage their emotions, and this is the only way they know how to communicate their frustration. When you view people through this compassionate lens, their actions no longer feel like a direct assault on your character. They become a sad, even pitiable display of someone else's pain. Radical empathy is a powerful tool for your own peace because it disarms your anger. Anger thrives on feeling personally wronged. It needs a villain and a victim. But when you extend empathy, you realize there are no villains, just people struggling. You move from a place of righteous indignation to a place of quiet understanding. The anger has no fuel, no narrative to feed on. You realize that getting angry at them is like getting angry at a toddler for not being able to tie their shoes. They simply don't have the emotional tools to do any better in that moment. Ultimately, this practice is about your own emotional freedom. You are not responsible for fixing their problems, but you are in complete control of how you respond. And when you can see the humanity in someone who is hurting, even if they're hurting you, you unlock a deeper well of compassion within yourself. That compassion, not anger, is the wellspring of true and lasting peace. We've talked about a lot of powerful ideas, and this next one is the bedrock for all of them. It's the simple yet revolutionary concept that people are, well, just people. We walk around with these unwritten contracts for everyone in our lives. We expect our friends to be reliable, our colleagues to be competent, our family to be supportive. We create an image in our minds of how things are supposed to be, and then when reality inevitably fails to live up to that image, we get angry. We get frustrated. We feel wronged. The core of this problem isn't their action. It's the expectation we had that they would act differently. We believe that we are entitled to their perfection, and in that belief, we hand them the power to constantly disappoint us. Think about it like this. Your anger is a direct measure of your unmet expectations. If you get furious when a flight is delayed, it's because you expected it to be on time. If you get irritated when a loved one forgets a small detail, it's because you expected them to remember everything. And here's the most important part. The expectations we hold for others are often a reflection of the standards we hold for ourselves. We can be incredibly forgiving of our own mistakes, but we are often relentless with others. We fail to see that every single person, including ourselves, is a walking, talking bundle of flaws and bad habits. We are all prone to error, to selfishness, to forgetfulness. To demand perfection from anyone is to set yourself up for a lifetime of frustration and anger. Managing expectations isn't about lowering your standards for your own life or settling for less. It's about a clear-eyed acceptance of human nature. It's about a deep, fundamental understanding that people will always be a work in progress. When you stop requiring others to be perfect, you're not giving them a free pass to be a mess. You're simply giving yourself a free pass to find peace. When you encounter an inconsiderate driver, instead of seeing an attack on your well-being, you can see a harried person in a hurry. When a friend lets you down, you don't have to see a betrayal. You can simply see a moment of human frailty. This shift in perspective is the most powerful shield you can put up against being bothered. The great irony is that when you release people from the burden of your expectations, you'll actually find them more pleasant to be around. You'll be able to appreciate them for who they are, not for who you wish they were. You'll stop taking their flaws personally because you'll understand that their imperfections aren't about you. They are simply a part of their own human story. When you recognize that everyone is a mix of good intentions and bad execution, you're able to meet them where they are without the emotional baggage of disappointment. You can see their actions for what they are, a person being a person, and you can decide whether or not to engage without feeling the need to get angry. This is a practice of letting go, of relinquishing control. You don't control people, you don't control outcomes, and you certainly don't control whether or not someone is going to live up to the fantasy version of them you've created. True peace comes when you stop fighting against reality. It comes when you look at the world and all the messy, complicated, imperfect people in it and say, I get it. You free yourself from the tyranny of shoulds and supposed tos. You accept the world as it is, and in that acceptance, you find a calm that no one can ever take away. Of all the ideas we've explored, this final one is the most actionable and arguably the most powerful. We've talked about what to do in the moment, but this is about what to do with the feeling itself. The key is to see anger not as a personal assault from the outside world, but as a signal from your inner self. It's an alarm bell, a flash on the dashboard of your mind, telling you that something needs your attention. And it's not the person who just bothered you. Anger is not the enemy, it's the messenger. And what it's telling you is that you've come up against a boundary, a vulnerability, or an unresolved issue within yourself. Think about it this way. Someone says something that offends you. The anger that rushes in isn't about their words. It's about the insecurity those words touched within you. Maybe you feel disrespected, and that's because you've struggled with feeling respected your whole life. Maybe you feel unappreciated, and that's because you've been conditioned to seek external validation. The person's action is just the trigger. The anger is a signpost pointing to a deeper wound. When you can stop and ask, why am I feeling this way? What is this anger really about? You shift your focus from them to you, and in that shift, you gain all your power back. This is a profound act of self awareness. It requires you to be a detective of your own emotions. Instead of letting anger run the show, you put it under a microscope. You get curious. What belief of mine was just challenged? What fear was just tapped into? When you do this, the anger loses its emotional charge. It's no longer a burning fire, it's just information. It's telling you, hey, there's a sensitive spot here. You might want to work on this. You move from a reactive state to a responsive state, from being a victim to being an investigator. This practice is the ultimate form of emotional aikido. Instead of meeting force with force, meeting their rudeness with your anger, you use their energy to understand yourself better. The more you use anger as a signal, the less you'll feel it, because you'll start addressing the root causes. You'll become so good at understanding your own triggers that the external world will have less and less power over you. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Instead of getting furious, you might notice a feeling of impatience and think, I'm running late, and feeling stressed about it. The anger never even gets a chance to take hold because you've already identified the underlying issue. Ultimately, this is about taking full responsibility for your own emotional landscape. You're not waiting for the world to be perfect. You're not waiting for people to be perfect. You are using the imperfections of the world as a tool for your own growth. You are turning every moment of potential frustration into an opportunity for self-discovery. And in that journey, you find a level of peace that no one and nothing can ever take away from you.